we'll get going into it. So we're going to look at Unilink today. We're going to look at a few different things regarding Unilink, and there's a lot to cover in a short time here. So we're going to cover what Unilink actually is. I also want to talk about a little bit about TWB and why Unilink was needed. I think that's an important story to know. And then we'll start going through each one of the different components and solutions we have on Unilink. So what is Unilink? Unilink really started as an improvement and replacement of TWB. So TWB does a lot of things really great, but there's also some issues that over the years have popped up and need to be addressed, and it was time for a refresh, right? So that is what Unilink began as, and the entire goal here is to simplify things, make it easier to use, make it play with itself better, basically, and just make it more user-friendly overall. So during this whole process and project, we're addressing all those issues and concerns brought up by TWB and using TWB, and making sure we do address those or at least consider them in any future designs. So Unilink is going to be very similar to what TWB does. It's going to allow you for that near limitless positioning capability, but this time it's going to do it a lot stronger. The other thing to keep in mind too is eventually TWB is going to replace all the Unilink, or be replaced by Unilink. We have contracts out there, we have a ton of TWB out in the wild, so that replacement of TWB process, that hasn't even begun. We haven't even started timelining that out because it is going to be a long process. We can't just have a hard cutoff in 2 months, right? We've got contracts we have to satisfy, and we have product in the field that needs support going forward. So TWB will still be around for a little while. We're not cutting it off right now. So you will see Unilink and TWB components for some time moving forward. And when we start to decide on those cutoff dates and obsolescence, we'll start communicating that with everybody. Right now, Unilink is going to include thigh guides, thoracic laterals, elbow supports, and headrest hardware. So it's going to break down into those 4 categories essentially. And those categories will start to grow over time as well. So launch dates and launching of Unilink. Quantum has had some Unilink stuff for some time now. Stealth has had a version of Unilink for some time now. Recently, Quantum has released laterals and headrests as well. So those laterals and headrests are this new phase of Unilink. On the Stealth side, what we're doing is taking those same 4 main categories, but offering multiple versions of each. So on the Stealth side, this initial phase is going to launch in late March of this year, so March 2020. We're going to open up for quoting the first week of March, so that's next week. We'll start quoting. Things will start shipping the last week of March, and then about a month later, we're going to start releasing and sending out headrest parts. The headrest, there's some things we're still sorting out and fine-tuning, so that's just going to take about another month on top of this March 2020 release, and then the headrest will come out. And then long-term, things are going to start to follow after that. So again, everything TWB is eventually going to have a Unilink version, so that does mean things will come from time to time in a Unilink. We want to start with TWB though. To understand why Unilink is and what we've done to improve usability and user friendliness of this hardware style, I think it's a good thing to start with understanding TWB. So TWB is going to use a chamfered compression fitting to lock into place. There's no teeth, so that's the important thing about TWB is that toothless fitting. The teeth kind of limit you if you need that just minute movement. Sometimes when you have like 4 different joints, it's a big movement that those teeth lock you out of. So no teeth helps us get anything where it needs to go essentially. And this compression, you basically have 2 opposing angles forced into a ring, and they don't fit into that ring until you put enough pressure there. Once they do fit in there, it's a pretty solid compression joint, and it holds pretty well. TWB is going to allow for up to about 275 degrees of rotation in each joint, and that's your maximum. Most of them don't get that much. There's a few that do, but most of them are a little less than that. So that 275 degrees is quite a bit. At one point, it was by far the most rotation you were getting out of hardwares in the field, in the industry, I should say. And links can be added and removed to achieve that perfect fit or near perfect placement, right? There was a set screw cleat that was added to help increase the strength and holding capabilities of that joint and really lock in that position. But what this means is there's a very specific process you have to follow to make sure that joint and that compression is perfect. So set screw is the first and the last thing you always have to deal with. If you're loosening or adjusting, you always want to start with a set screw. Loosen it and make sure it's completely free and clear of everything before you start to mess with that compression screw. So that cleat is actually putting a longitudinal pressure on your threads, right? So it's pushing things in the opposite directions and putting things off-centered, so you're binding up your compression screw. If you release that pressure, compression screw releases easier. Now you can tighten it. It's not common for people to follow this process. There's a lot of people who just deal with compression screw only and forget about the set screw altogether, and that causes issues. So if things are misaligned, such as having a set screw poking out as you tighten down, it'll start to make those opposing chamfers line up not perfectly. And when they are not perfectly lined up, they actually push apart. They fight against each other and weaken that joint. If they're not lined up perfect, every time you tighten it down, it's just going to get a little bit weaker and a little bit weaker. We have a steel bolt going through aluminum threads. So that does a couple of not amazing things here, right? So steel and aluminum, one is stronger than the other, so there's a potential that you could over torque that steel bolt and pull those aluminum threads, and now you have a stripped out TWB thread, right? And that's not an easy thing necessarily to deal with in the field and get replaced and fixed. Steel and aluminum also don't like each other. They don't like to touch each other down to a molecular level. They essentially are bonding to each other. So for that reason, copper anti-seize was added. One of the things to keep in mind, though, is on copper anti-seize, there's a very, very limited life cycle of each application. So we would apply it, we would put that bolt in there, but by the time the customer gets it, when they loosen it and go to retighten it, they've already burned through the life cycle of that application of copper anti-seize, right? It only has a 2 to 3 cycle rating. So in theory, when they were going to set it for their final position, they should, if you're going by the copper anti-seize manufacturer recommendation, they should be putting more anti-seize at that point. So it's a lot of minor things that all added up for some crazy stuff going on with that bolt. The TWB links have been developed for a variety of applications over the years now. So you had inline links, you had offset links of those versions of inline links. There were multiple lengths of TWB link, and very few of those were interchangeable. You also had, in some cases, where you had a metric and SAE hardware in those links. So even when you get down to your ball kit, your 3-piece ball kits, you had a false metric on one side. So really and truly, you needed an SAE and a metric on one single piece. And then we had multiple sizes as well. So your thoracic laterals and your headrest hardware, those links are not interchangeable. They're different sizes altogether. There's a pediatric one that's different again from all of those. Then there's a IDCH, which uses its own unique link. So it just got kind of messy over the years. UniLink is our answer to all of this. So UniLink is going to use a very similar technology as TWB. There's still no teeth, and it's still a compression fitting. This time we eliminate those opposing angles and kind of take away room for error. The only way you can really mess up tightening and loosening these joints now is just not tightening it enough. So now what we're doing is we have a steel male and a steel female cone inserted into that link, and that creates a joint that's pretty strong now. We're about 4 to 4.5 times stronger than the TWB link. So Unolink, we're about 102 foot-pounds before it actually moves on a test bench. So that's crazy strong. If you're doing the math, you're looking at like 23.5 foot-pounds for TWB. So pretty significant improvement, and it is definitely shown here. So we had a previous generation of Unilink that was all aluminum, and the steel version is still 2 to 3 times stronger than that. Each joint now is going to rotate up to about 258 degrees. So we did sacrifice a little, but we gained a lot here, right? You can add or take away links as needed, and we have links for multiple applications, but they're all interchangeable. So that is a big key difference here, that everything is interchangeable. Everything's metric M5 threads now, and we're looking at adjustments with a 4mm Allen wrench. There is one small exception to that rule, and we'll cover that in a minute, but for the most part, everything is metric M5s. Set screws are gone, and steel threads and steel bolts are what's used. So it's steel on steel on steel now, so everything's happy. No set screws and no copper anti-seize either. So one of the problems with putting copper anti-seize in a system like this was always that as you thread that bolt in that had anti-seize, it would push the excess anti-seize off, and the only place it could go was all over that cone, which is the place that we're trying to get to seize, right? So then you'd have copper anti-seize all over that, and that joint wouldn't ever really hold. So now we eliminate anti-seize, we have a steel bolt going into steel threads, everything's happy, it tightens down really nice, holds rock solid, and best part of all is no more sparks and gunpowder and smoke and stuff when you loosen. I don't know how you're supposed to tell that it's loose now if it doesn't explode at you, but everything's nice and clean, easy to deal with there. And we have 3 links of Unilink to choose from now. So we have a 1.5, a 2-inch, and a 3-inch link, and that's it. So between those 3 links and different mounting components that we have, that is the entirety of the Unilink family. So everything is universal. We have multiple hardware components that basically you mix and match these links and different mounting components, you get different configurations of Unilink, and that's as simple as it gets, right? So looking at these different things, we're going to start with the pelvic solutions. We've got a few things to look at now. Unilink thigh guides are going to be available in multiple configurations. So we have a fixed that's still adjustable though. We have a flip away in a short and a long, our standard in a short and a long, and a multi-angle in a short and a long. So these thigh guides do the same thing as every other thigh guide out there on the market. They're really used to properly position that pelvis, as well as thighs. So these can be used really to position thighs when they're abducted or anything like that. You can also aid in guiding the hips into their proper placement when they're getting in and out of their chair. And these hardwares, the big difference here though is that Unilink provides you multiple points and multiple planes of adjustment to allow for that perfect fit. When we break it down, we've got 4 styles to look at. We've got that fixed adjustable, and this is going to be your non-removable height and angle adjustable thigh support. So this is our number A here on the far left. So this one, what's nice about it is it stays fixed to the chair, you tighten it down, and you never worry about it again. This would be something that would go on, for example, like a planar seating that would traditionally use just a fixed L bracket. This is going to give you something that gives more adjustability than a fixed L bracket, but is still locked in place and will not move. When you look at the next one to the right, our B option here would be flip away. So this one, you still get height and angle adjustability out of your thigh support, but now you introduce a swing away mechanism to it. So it swings away for transfers and offers a really nice piece here. So our third one would be your standard removable thigh support. You have height adjustability, angle adjustability, and it's removable. We also have one that offers those same things, but does it a little bit differently in the multi-angle. It's going to be able to come up and over taller seating profiles a little easier. Looking at them more in depth here, your fixed adjustable is essentially a multi-angle thigh support with no stem. On all of these hardwares that we're about to talk about, thigh supports and thoracic laterals, you pick your hardware and you pick your mount. So this would come just as the UniLink components and no mounts. So this is going to offer you height adjustment in the UniLink links themselves. You have angle adjustability in a couple of planes, and then we have multiple links you could choose from to make it taller or shorter, right? What's cool here is you have a right angle link, and what that right angle link does is coming off your pad mount, you go in one plane, and coming down towards your chair mount side, it turns it and puts it in a different plane. So if we were to mount to a chair rail here, it would come straight up. Your mounting or your adjustability is actually laterally in relation to the chair. So you're coming up and over, and then that right angle now lets you adjust in a different lateral plane. So this really lets us fine tune everything. That right angle link can be mixed and matched and moved around so that where it cuts in towards the user is exactly where you need it. And you don't have to push Unilinks out to the side at all. So it's really adjustable, it's really cool. And we have multiple mounting options to choose from that we'll look at in just a second here. Our flip away option is going to be able to come in a short and a long version. So this is going to give you a flip away version that remains fixed to the chair. So cool thing about that is it's never lost and it's always there. But it does get out of the way when they need to transfer and things. So this is going to be height adjustable. You've got multiple joints to play with to affect that height, and it's angle adjustable as well. You can add FSC or full surface contact as well, so you can better line that pad up with the end user's body. Multiple joints. Yes.
Quick question, sorry. On this version, the flip away version, are we able to reposition that swing away point along the links, or is that a fixed position on that swing away?
In this case, this is a fixed position. So this one is done basically by taking our standard traditional lateral and flipping it up. Exact same hardware, different mount. So your flip away mechanism is a mount version and not an inline link. The inline link could be added to this if needed, though. I would say
yeah, I'm thinking for some of those guys that have a hard time reaching all the way down to their seat rail to get to that flip away point.
Yep. So I would say that inline link would probably be better served in the multi-angle or the fixed. If not, you've got two swing aways you're paying for in one hardware. So the other thing to keep in mind here, full surface contact is available. You can add it after the fact if needed, and you're good to go. When looking at our pelvic thigh guides, these are our standard items. These are going to be removable. You can take them off the chair, provide that correct adjustment in height and angle, change up your links if you need to. You've got two stems to choose from, a 5 and a 7 inch, and these are going to be track mounted. So what I want to point out here is these are the same thigh guides that we're selling in the aluminum version right now. We had to make a modification to the stem though. So in order to have a steel cone on the top of that stem, the stem had to have a design change. We cannot insert it into the previous stem, and it is an inserted piece. So it's now got a new top part, but the byproduct of that is the stem is universal across the different versions of thigh guides. So looking at the other version that uses a stem would be your multi-angle. Again, this is your fixed adjustable version with a stem. So it does all those cool things that the fixed adjustable does, but now you have a height adjustable stem. So multiple sizes, 2 stems to choose from. They're the exact same 5 and 7 inch as the previous version with a track mounted receiver. These stems are pretty straightforward. This is your exception to your 4mm rule. So these stems have a set screw for your height reference. You've got 2 of them to choose from, a 5 and a 7, and each one has a 2mm hex set screw inside of it. And that hex set screw is basically your height reference along as you drop it into that track receiver. So 1/2 inch increments, you've got 5 to choose from, and that's your one exception so far to your 4mm rule. Your track receiver right now is quantum specific. There's some other styles coming soon. The thing that makes it quantum specific is on the back side of this track receiver, there's a raised lip. And that raised lip is very specific to the opening of the quantum tracks. What we've talked about is shaving that down flat and having the ability to just swap out different track nuts on the backside. If it's flat, it would fit in, say, a Permobil a little bit easier. Right now, since it's a raised beveled edge, you get very, very little contact on that Permobil receiver or Sunrise track, or Sunrise track, and that makes it a very weak or unstable receiver. So that's kind of our drawback right now. Fairly easy fix. That'll be coming soon. It does have a ratchet lever. For this next launch or release or updated release of Unilink, this receiver has received no changes, so it's exactly the same. My only tip here would be make sure you set that ratchet lever before you mount it to the chair. So put your stem in there, tighten that down, back it off 1/2 a turn, and then install it on the chair. If not, you get stuck fighting that ratchet lever for like 20 minutes. So some of the other mounting options we're going to have for your pelvic thigh supports would be a 90-degree angled bracket. This bracket would let us put, say, the fixed adjustable thigh support onto a planar seating, for example, or our flip down thigh support on a planar seating. So 90-degree bracket. We also have track nuts for Quantum and Permobil. We'll have cane mounts that wrap all the way around the tubing in 3/4, 7/8, and 1 inch. And then we also have our 90-degree pelvic all seasons bracket. And this pelvic all season bracket would let us slide in and out without having to get tools out. And then we have a full surface contact option. Looking at track pads, these are going to receive a little bit of an update in the form of 2 new sizes. So now we will have 3 sizes to choose from. We'll have a 4x4 up to a 4x12. We get questioned daily on having like the 4x6, for example, so we are expanding those sizes. What's nice here is you have a track on the rear side of the pad, and that track lets you do some cool things. You get an aluminum base, and you have a dual layer of foam inside. So you have your closed cell with an HR50 on the contact side, which is just a really soft open cell. A cool core cover, and it makes it a really soft, really comfortable pad. With these tracks and T-nuts, you can do a few things. If you put them both in the lower track, you can raise your pad in relationship to the cushion. If you put them both in the upper, it'll drop it down a little bit in relationship to the cushion or hardware. But if you stagger them, one in the top, one in the bottom, you can rotate your pad nearly 180 degrees. And that's very useful for those times when you don't have just a flat cushion. So if you have an anti-thrust, for example, and you need to put this pad right in smack dab middle of the anti-thrust, you can angle it to match without leaving a giant gap on the shallow side. Standard pads are going to receive an upgrade as well. These are the current thigh support pads that we've sold for years. They're going to be flat. We'll have 5 sizes to choose from that we've targeted, a 3x6 up to your 4x12. What's going to change is they're going to use metric PIM nuts, and there's no tracks on these. So changing to a metric PIM nut, we're changing the hole spacing as well of those PIMs so that it's specific to Unilink. It'll still be an aluminum base, closed cell foam, and a neoprene cover. Pretty straightforward outside of that. Just changing the PIMs, their location, and their their thread count essentially. So what we get, multiple hardwares to choose from. For the most part, these will not come with a receiver or a mount. It should be called out when it is. What we do have are multiple receivers here. So these receivers and mounts, if they're under $55, will be included with the purchase of a hardware. So if you're purchasing a multi-angle thigh support and you need a different mount, you can add it and it'll be included in there. Links are available separate as well, and our pads receive some new part numbers. So those new part numbers, especially for your standard style pads, are simply so we can call out that it is a Unilink compatible and we don't ever have any chance of mixing them up. We do have the ability to do a custom pad with those metric 1-inch spacings as well. Moving on to your trunk supports, we've got multiples to look at again. Again, same thing here. These hardwares are going to be highly adjustable lateral thoracic supports. They do the same thing every other adjustable thoracic support does. So it's going to help you increase that stability and balance while they're in the chair, give them a tactile reminder to sit upright, and help maintain that functional, comfortable position. When we look at the versions we have, it kind of breaks down into 5 versions. We'll have a swing away or a fixed, we'll have an inline swing away, and then we'll have a short swing away and a short fixed. To get our 10 versions, we take those first 5 and add full surface contact to them. So now you've got a version with a standard pad mount or a full surface contact pad mount already installed. So looking at these on our standard swing away laterals, these are going to give you that improved function in transfers and things. It swings away, gets out of the way. It's going to add, you can add or remove Unilink items to achieve that perfect fit. And you've got 3 points of contact in this standard configuration. Pad depth is also adjustable. And if you do the FSC version, you've already got that ball mounted pad mount. So you can rotate that pad and match that body or that end user's body shape, right? So it's pretty straightforward here. The sizes of this version and our shorter versions match up to our TWB laterals. So your short and your long TWB stuff, this is the same length as previously. Our short versions, same thing, 1.5 inches, shorter than your standard. This is great when your depth is not as needed. So pediatrics or somebody with a super duper thin profile back, things like that, you don't have the hardware conflicts, having to push links out to get it so short, things like that. In this case though, this is as short as they come. You cannot make them any shorter. So if you look in the middle of these two hardwares, there is a double male link. Kind of looks like a figure 8, right? The double male link, if you pull that out, the pad mount and the swing away mechanism do not mount back up to each other. So this is as short as you can get. You can only add 2. So this gives you 2 points of adjustment plus your pad depth. And we do have that FSC option as well. When we look at our inline swing away lateral, this one's actually pretty cool. So it's about the same length as the standard swing away lateral, but this time we get to clearly define where the swing away mechanism happens at. So you can add or take away links before or after the swing away mechanism to really define that. And what this lets us do is swing away around objects that may cause conflict. So a lot of times you swing away your lateral and it moves a couple degrees before it hits your cane poles and then you're stuck, right? Now we can push that swing away forward so that they open wider and give more access to transfer in and out of the chair and things like that. But what's really cool about this is it can move it forward for end user access, right? So they don't have to reach so far back. The other thing is we could flip the direction of the required push to swing away. So if you turn your inline swing away link over, now they would push forward to release it. If they can't get all the way back there to push backwards, that's an option. So you really get to dial it in, make it perfect for the end user so they can release it easily. One of the things is on all of these swing aways, that red button, In the future, we have the option to come back and change it so that we have a different pad or a different button style. So right now it's just kind of that wedge shape. We have the ability to come in and put more of a pad, more of like a thumb hook, things like that. So that is an option down the road that we will be exploring. When we look at our fixed laterals, again, this is something that could give you an adjustable version of just that simple fixed L bracket. So this is something that stays in place, does not move once you tighten it down, but it gives you more adjustment than just a simple L bracket would. So this one, what's cool about it is there's no double male link here, so you can make it as short as you need, and you can just add links as needed as well. So there's no conflict in any of that this time. There is an FFC version and a short and long version here. Mounts, again, are not included. You have to select them per your application. But again, same as the thigh supports, if you choose one that's under $55, it's going to be comped in at a zero charge. We're going to have cane mounts and crescent mounts here. So canes wrap all the way around your cane poles. Crescents have a little bit of an opening. So we're going to have these in 3/4, 7/8, and 1 inch. So what we've done with all of these mounts here is really target that 80-20 rule. So when we had a mount that we sold like 2 of a year that was not worth Stealth's time and effort, we're not making that right now. We'll still be able to do those as a custom if and when needed, but we're really focusing on the ones that we actually sell quantity of that's worth everybody's time. We'll have the ability to add an FSC pad mount after the fact. So if you get the standard without full surface contact, you can go in and add that later without being locked into buying an entire new hardware piece. Lateral brackets are going to be available in multiple angles. Same thing, 80-20 rule here. So we're going to have it in 48 degrees for your Permobil 3G stuff, in 90 degree for all your planer, your TFBI, your Diego, your flexback, things like that. 105 degree would be your rectangle TFB, some of the freedom backs. And then you've got 125 degrees for your quantum stuff, your TB3, your TB4 backs. When you get into the 135 degree, you're looking at ADI, your Q-back, your TFB contour, things like that. We also have OEM kits that you've probably already seen a few of out there. Your TB4 OEM kit here is already out in the field. We have a TB3 OEM kit, which is the same as our TWB version, just with the Unolink lateral bracket instead. And then same with the Permobil 3G. It's the same track with a different bracket on it this time around. Other options we're going to have would be your all seasons mounts. So we'll have it in 70, 75, 80, and 85. And remember, we have the 90 in your thigh supports. So what this will let us do again is let you adjust up to 2 inches per side in quarter-inch increments without tools. So this is ideal when your end user's size is changing throughout the day. For example, using a coat in the morning and not in the afternoon, or inside and outside. Or when your user needs a variable amount of support. So maybe they're good and strong, sit upright just fine in the morning, and throughout the day they start to slump over to one side or the other. This lets you adjust to accommodate for that and not need tools. So the way we do it is there's a little adapter. This is the current adult sized all seasons mount. We just put a little adapter plate on it that gives us holes in the Unilink spacing. So these Unilink lateral pads are going to receive an update as well. So lateral pads are being standardized so that they're consistent with the Unilink family. So our thoracic lateral pads are going to start using metric threads. The hole spacing is going to be standardized. Right now there's a really weird formula that's used so that the height of your pad kind of determines the placement of your holes. That's not quite going to be the case anymore. But what kind of is like makes everything worth it here is dimensions will be true to size now. So when you order a 3x5 and you take out your tape measure, it's going to show 3x5. Currently, if you order a 3x5, pull out a tape measure, you have a 4x6 in your hands. Yep, heard some applause there. So still going to be a neoprene cover, still going to have your closed cell material inside, but we are standardizing hole sizes and calling it what it actually is. So again, 80-20 rule, we're focusing right now on your 3x5, 4x6, and a 5x7 in true dimensions, both with or without gel. We'll have custom sizes and fabrics and things like that available for somebody who needs it, and we'll be kind of monitoring that, and if there's a custom dimension that's done quite a bit, we'll definitely add that to the standard. So prices, we've got a lot to look at here, but it's pretty straightforward when you break it down. Anything that swings away, you've got one MSRP. If there's no swing away, you've got a second MSRP. So that's the easy trick to it. So full surface contact, you can add to it. If you notice, I'm going to back up a slide here. Full surface contact and non-full surface contact versions of these swingaways are the same, and the fixed are the same. So you're kind of getting a break on your full surface contact by ordering it pre-assembled. So we'll also have some cane clamp options that you can add. These are all under that $55 that'll get tossed in for free. And then we'll have all of our brackets available as well. All Seasons has its new part number, and so do pads. The pads get a new part number. That way we don't have any chance of getting the wrong one out there that doesn't line up, right? Moving on, we're going to look at upper extremity supports now. Upper extremities right now are elbow supports. In the near future, it'll be a lot more than that, but right now we have our elbow supports in UniLink. So what we have are a fixed and a swing away version. Those fixed and swing away versions are available pre-assembled with a quantum mount, or with no mount, you choose your mount. So these elbow supports do the same thing they've always done, same thing every other elbow support out there on the market does. They really hold your elbows in place and prevent you from sliding off or away from the front side of your arm pad during your tilt. So this is really going to help prevent injury to your shoulder, prevent gravity from pulling you down, and really keeps that end user's hand in place in reach of their driver control, of their seat function box, things like that. You can also really help to dial in their placement. So this serves as a really good reference when putting an end user in the chair or repositioning them. They have a posterior reference to know exactly where that elbow should go to give them good hand placement. So these elbow supports also could provide some lateral support with that forearm if you use that curved 3x10 pad, which is pretty handy in bumpy terrain and things like that. Or if your arm troughs just aren't quite enough, they do reach up and over Autobach arm troughs and can provide a little bit more aggressive support than just a standard arm trough alone. Looking at the two versions we do have, they're both going to be height and depth adjustable, so you can really fine tune where that pad falls on the arm pad. They're going to come with a 17mm ball, so the pad itself has quite a bit of adjustability and angle adjustability. You have two different links that are added in there, so you can really achieve that perfect fit and placement. And you have several pads to choose from. Compatibility wise, right now, again, the two versions you're looking at come pre-configured with Quantum flip back armrest or TB4 armrest receivers. That is not compatible with your TB3, but we'll also have multiple cane clamps and things we'll look at in just a second as an option as well. So these are side specific as well. They're side specific, so the bolts always face out, so you can adjust it and tighten it down and put it where it needs to be. You cannot do that if those bolts are facing in, right? So your fixed is pretty straightforward. It did not receive many changes versus the version you guys know out there. Only difference is now we use a steel cone instead of aluminum. So what this does is it makes it a little stronger. Everything stays in place. You can mix and match links to put it where you need it. Add links to make it clear taller things or push it farther forward if you have super duper deep backrest, things like that. Looking at your swing away version, this adds an inline swing away link that helps us gain a elbow support that swings away. So if they need it to be out of the way for transfers, ADLs, things like that, this is that option for them. What's nice is that swing away link can be added anywhere in that chain. You can flip it around, things like that, to really adjust exactly how and where it flips away from. When you get into your quantum specific mount, it's going to be TP4 specific or flip back arm specific and side specific. And this is the piece that turns those links the correct direction to ensure that they no longer, or that there's no chance that the bolt heads face the inside of the chair. So all 4mm things here, everything is 4mm Allen wrench adjustment. You have got M5 and M8 threads though. Other mounts are going to come soon. So we'll have some Permobil stuff, we'll have Sunrise and a universal track, as well as some cane mounting. The inside, or the end of this chain, you get a 17mm ball. Allows 30 degrees of swivel. You got 360 degrees of rotation, things like that. Good thing to know here is the hardware includes your split ring. So we are getting rid of those 3-piece ball kits. I think I may have mentioned, I'm not sure earlier, but 3-piece ball kits go away. Everything gets a split ring now. Elbow pads are going to be the same elbow pads as before with a minor update. So now we're going to metric threads. So everything across the board is going to be universal metric with the exact same threads, right? Original pads you used to adjust your Unilink links with a 4mm, and then you'd have to pull out your 5/32 to deal with the pad itself. That's not the case anymore. They're going to be available in the same options, so your 3x3, 4x4, and a 3x10 with or without gel. Straightforward on the part numbers here. You can get it with or without pads included. Just keep in mind some of them are side specific. We do have those other mounts for the non-side specific version. So we'd have Permobil nuts, we'll have some track nuts I should say, and then the cane mounts. So your cane mounts are going to turn the mount so that the hardware comes out the back. If you use the standard lateral cane mount, it'll actually drop your hardware straight down first on an armrest. Then you have a big giant monstrosity of links coming up and around and over to get to an elbow. So that's not really cool. So there's going to be a slightly different version of cane mount for your elbows. This puts us on head solutions. What I want to point out here is that headrest hardwares will be a little bit after the initial release. Again, everything we looked at so far is going to be launching the last week of March. Headrest hardware is going to be approximately a month after. So headrest hardware, we've got a few things to look at. Quantum is using this headrest hardware already, so we are producing a version for them. What it's going to do is give us a near limitless adjustment possibility, same as TWB, just does it a little cleaner and simpler. So multiple planes of adjustment, you've got multiple ways to adjust height, you've got fore and aft adjustments, you've got pad angles, pad rotations, lateral offsets, you've got a couple balls to play with, so you've got a lot of ways to go here. And it's all going to be transitioning over to a 17mm ball. Standardizing that size as well is kind of important, so no more 1-inch ball kit. The Unilink hardware is really going to give us that fast, easy adjustment in a link style hardware. You've got 6 standard points of adjustment. There's multiple link sizes you can add. Again, ball for angle and rotation. But what we're going to carry at Stealth, we're going to have a 12-inch long tube or down post in either 1/2-inch or 15mm tubing, in square tubing here. 15mm is typically internationally, where the 1/2-inch is here in the US. We'll also have a 7-inch in that 1/2-inch version, and Quantum is going to carry that same 7-inch long with 1/2-inch tubing. So this gives us 4 part numbers. 2 of them are identical. So your ST part number with the -Q on the end on top here is for your Quantum. This is the one they already carry. It's 7 inches long, 1/2-inch tubing on your bar and your down tube through Quantum. Your next one down is a very similar part number, exact same component, but that's what the part number would be through Stealth. Your next two would be your 12-inch longs. This would be either a 15 millimeter or 1/2-inch bar. So what this does is we're replacing your TWB 485 and 486 hardwares in a non-flip down version. So your 485 and 486 flip downs, those are coming later, but right now all your fixed stuff, this replaces all of that. So looking at it, you're going to have two 3-inch long links here. You'll have 6 points of adjustment. You've got 3 UniLink joints. You've got a headrest ball. You've got a ball in your stem, and you can adjust your ball or your stem height. So everything is M5 metric here. Again, every single thing here is a 4 millimeter Allen wrench. To coincide with this and keep that unity throughout the complete line, Comfort Pluses are going to receive an update as well. So Comfort Plus will be transitioning to a 17 millimeter ball. This still doesn't keep us away from tone deflectors or anything. It just makes TD100 the tone deflector of choice, though. CSR should know, but go ahead and keep in mind that TD100 at this point in time, we would need to make sure they include metric bolts. The current bolts that come with it are not metric. So going to that 17 millimeter ball, we also changed to metric M5 threads. So again, same 4 millimeter bolt adjustment here. Tri-Comfort and Adjustable Comfort Plus are still 1 inches. We have not made that transition yet on those. That'll be something we do shortly after this first round of launches. A couple of other changes that we've done is change up the cover. So now we have Cool Core and Honeycomb. So between your headrest, your backrest, your cushions, your thigh supports, all of that stuff, you have a consistent feel from top to bottom. So there's not a reason that you have to absolutely have 5 different materials on your chair, right? One of the other things I want to point out about the cover, I'm coming back a slide here. This cover has been changed so that the zipper kind of falls a little more cleanly. It's got a nicer cover or flap over the zipper, but we've also gone around that ball pad. Used to, it would just zip over the middle of it, and then you have a big opening that unzips itself over time. So now it falls a little cleaner and looks a little better.
Another round of claps on that one.
Yeah. One of the other things that should deserve its own round of claps as well that we've done is now that law tag is sewn on the inside. So it should ship hanging out because the customer must see it. But once you roll it up and tuck it in and zip that cover up, no more law tag hanging out. So it's still there. It's on the bottom side. So this picture in the bottom right corner is actually upside down. So it illustrates a little better. But once you zip your cover, it looks just like this previous picture here with no law tag, clean zipper, everything's nice and clean here. Moving on to your swingaways. Since we moved to a 17 millimeter ball with metric threads, that does mean our swingaway hardwares need to have an update. So we've started with the Comfort Plus series swingaway hardwares, and that was our target for the first round of updates. This new plate is going to have attachment points for your swingaway hardwares. The ears themselves, the swingaway ears and rods and everything like that, have not changed. They're the exact same SU rods and ears that they were before. Still swing away the same 100 degrees, lock in place, and everything like that. That plate that does all this, though, is a steel plate, so it's nice and durable, but it's rock solid as well. It's going to have pad mounts or for your lateral pads that are angle adjustable, so you can get some pretty crazy things going on like you have in the bottom right picture here. So you've got 3 positions each ear can mount in. If you need to have a pad laterally on the top side of your head, you would mount it like this, but you could flip that whole plate over to get some pads on the chin for right now. So this is going to also have an open end or split ring design with a 17 millimeter ball, so that it's all compatible and we do not need a 3-piece ball kit here. So hardware wise, pretty straightforward stuff here. We've got our quantum hardwares, we've got our stealth hardwares, but the Comfort Plus does get its new part number here. So again, we can differentiate between new and old, and we don't have any confusion there. I do want to point out we stop at the 14-inch. We don't have the 19-inch in this newer updated version. We do have custom options available here, and R&D and design has already communicated that we're going to monitor the 19-inch, and if enough requests come through, we'll definitely add that to this new updated version as a standard. So we're still finalizing prices here on your swingaways. What I want to point out too, before we get too far away from this picture, these swingaways come up pretty tall above the ball on this Comfort Plus style. So that's going to be important to remember down the road here in just a minute. Let's talk about Unolink kits though. So the Unolink kits are pretty cool. They do a lot of cool things for us. What we can do with it is we get this backpack full of hardwares. You've got not quite one each of every Unolink assembly, but you've got a representation of some sort of every Unolink component, just about. And with all the hardwares in here, you can mix and match and make just about every single one you can order from us. You also get a tackle box full of spare parts. And the intention here is you take this backpack and let's say I'm in a delivery or an assessment or something, and I need a mount that I know doesn't exist. I can take all these components, mix them and match them, put them all together to create that thing, that hardware I need, but I know does not exist yet. So I can make some really unique stuff here. Or let's say I have a customer who I go out to see, they caught their headrest on the door frame going in their minivan and just broke a link. I have links in here that I can repair that damaged item with. So it does a lot of cool things for us. The other interesting thing we get to do here is for in-services for our sales reps, right? Now we get to take a backpack in. We can represent almost every single thing we can do with Unilink in this one little backpack without pulling in every 120 or whatever items it is that we sell in Unilink. So the kit also includes some ratchet levers. I kind of like to point those out. You gotta mean it. You gotta squish that cone down pretty good to get them started. But once you start, there's plenty of threads, and what this lets us do is now make a toollessly adjustable mount. So I know a lot of times in clinics it would be ideal to have a headrest hardware that has ratchet levers instead of bolts. Bolts always get stripped out. Ratchet levers are a little bit easier for somebody who needs to change a headrest hardware's location 10 times a day. So that option is here as well. And you've got part numbers and everything for every piece of this kit. So once you use a piece, you can call us up and replace that piece, and always keep your kit inventoried, because kits don't work if things aren't there, right? So that's what the kit is. But moving along, one thing I want to look at just briefly here is a Backrest adapter. The Simple Solutions adapter interface is something that does use Unilink, so I do want to talk about it. So SSAPTB4, this is a quantum specific backrest interface that basically, a short roundabout way to say it is I can take any backrest, mount it to a quantum chair with minimal seat depth loss. So we targeted the Matrix, the J3, a couple of the comfort companies, some Roho stuff, and the Ride Design stuff. You get width adjustability, you get height adjustability, you get all this crazy adjustability. But what I do want to point out is out of all these backrests and every other backrest that I've been able to get a hold of, I have not found one that I can't mount to this interface. And of all of those, so far, 1/2 inch is the most seat depth I've had to eat up to. So we're very, very minimal seat depth loss, and we get to do a lot of cool things here. So your center plate mounts directly to your center spine on your TB3, TB4 backs, and your wings are width adjustable. You've got about 4 inches per side. So if you're mounted right in the middle of those wings, you do have some lateral offset, about 2 inches per direction at maximum, but you do have the ability to go laterally with your backrest. You've got 3 inches of height adjustment as well, depending on the adjustment of your Unilink components, but you have 4 Unilink sections here on this backrest. Each one is independently adjustable in height. You can add or remove links. You can turn the backrest mounting plate, the thing that actually touches the backrest, can be rotated in 90-degree increments, and that's actually extremely important. That adjustment in 90-degree increments is the reason I've been able to mount everything flush and not have seat depth loss. If it didn't turn, we would have some that eat up 4 or 5 inches of seat depth. So with these Unilinks, what it provides us is an interface that all by itself gives us depth, back rotation, back angle, and back height adjustments on top of whatever adjustability is built into your backrest and into your chair. So it does a lot of things really well. And this will be coming very, very soon. So one of the Unilink components with this adapter interface is a male-to-male link. This male-to-male link is the exact same male-to-male link that's on the on the laterals. Basically, right now, as of today, what we're doing is Stealth is in inventory building stages of both Stealth and Quantum inventory. So the call had to be made: do we want laterals to be built, or do we want this interface to be built? So laterals win hands down. So as soon as we can get inventory ramped up, this will go full blown and live as well. So this is coming very soon, but it does share some components with laterals, which of course take precedent. But let's get a little bit of a snapshot on some of the things to come. Some of the things that are already on our radar as of right now would include a flipback headrest hardware. Some of you guys may have seen this at shows already. It's actually received some minor tweaks since you've seen it. This hardware is actually really great. So it's a different mechanism than we have used before. And what it does, it cleans it up, makes it simpler, but now your backlash is adjustable. So backlash or play, how much that headrest moves when you touch it, can be adjusted out. So that's an important feature. You have a rock solid hardware that still flips back. All of our Unilink versions that we currently sell will have the ability to be turned into a flipback hardware. One of the other things that you kind of might have seen me skip over or not talk about yet would be the dovetail seatback mount. So this seatback mount allows for ample lateral adjustment. It's got a cam lever release design for ease of operation. So Quantum started using this on their new redesigned back. We found out there were some issues that were not foreseen issues. They were a little bit overlooked or just not aware of to start with. So we're working through that. Right now, Quantum will be launching with their standard seatback mount, the SBM 300, same as Stealth is going to use. And once those issues get cleaned up and sorted out, we'll be coming back to this one. So what it is, you get a dovetail mount or silver track that Quantum produces, and it's mounted already to their backrest. And Stealth produces the seatback mount or the cam lever thing. So Quantum produces part, we produce part. And what Stealth is going to do is we are going to start working on our own version. On the Quantum version, the mounting holes are extremely specific. They only line up with Quantum's new backrest. They don't line up with anything else. So Stealth is going to make a version that is a little more universally spaced on the hole pattern. We're also going to make ours a little bit thicker. If you drop your headrest far enough on that thickness of a dovetail mount, the top pad mount, or bottom pad mount I should say, comes very, very close to your back shell. So that does not allow your hardware to rotate more than a couple degrees. So we're going to thicken ours up and space it back away from your headrest, or sorry, your backrest a little bit. So now you can rotate your hardware laterally, and you'll still be able to move side to side. We're also going to make our holes a little bit different. Since we're going to be thicker, we're going to make sure our holes allow us to put a bolt head in so we can tighten down on a threaded piece. So like PIM nuts on, say, your TWB rectangle, we can tighten down there and still have it flush. So our cam lever seatback mount slides side to side still, or you can flip it around, put bolts through a through hole back, with a flush or low profile nut and tighten down still and still have a flush mount. So we'll be able to accommodate quite a bit there. Still have some rotation and some cool stuff with that. That's coming soon. Also coming soon is an UltraLink. So R&D has a few designs that they've been playing with. At this point, we just got to narrow it down, pick which one we want to go with, and really refine that design. So that's going to be coming pretty quick, but that'll let us create that stealth ultra headrest system. We're also going to keep working on swing away systems. So if you noticed, I talked about how tall that swing away hardware was, right? We're also going to come out with a low profile version. That would be something where these Comfort Plus series come up and then out, or down then out. The low profile would come out even with the ball, and that would be something we use on iDrive, for example. So we'll have low profile and Comfort Plus series that could accommodate up to 4 swing aways. So we've still got more swing aways we're going to come out with to replace all the different swing away hardwares we can currently do. Thigh supports I mentioned earlier, we're going to make sure we have something that's a little better suited to Permobil and Sunrise. And then our elbow supports, like I mentioned, our crescent clamp. We're going to need a new version of that. It's coming soon that kicks our hardware out in the right direction before you have to build something crazy to get up to an elbow. All of this, I kind of mentioned everything's been interchangeable, integrates with each other, plays very nice with itself, right? So when you get into it, you can build just about anything you want to build. And that's kind of part of the idea behind the Unolink kit. So Unolink, you can really mix and match everything, and you can create that unique system that doesn't exist. So what's cool about this is when I get to that situation, and let's say I need something to mount in a really unique location, but still be rock solid, or maybe I need it to be rock solid with swing away, and current hardwares just aren't cutting they're not working for what I need, I can build it out of Unilink. So the longer you sit and look, the more things you can actually do with this Unilink hardware. It's pretty cool stuff, and you can kind of create just about anything out of what we currently have, not to mention anything we have coming in the future. So you can build some pretty cool stuff. You can put our thigh support in the armrest, and you can make it a joystick mount. You can make that thigh support a switch mount and have a rock solid switch mount. It's got a 17mm ball, so anything we do with that 17mm ball can already happen on these on this Unilink stuff. Mushroom. I've got a picture of a mushroom here mounted with elbow support hardware and the pad mount off of a thigh support. So it cuts in immediately. So we can do some really cool things here. Like I said, the limit is how long you want to sit and think. So that's it on Unilink. There's more to come, but we wanted to give you guys some answers and some ideas of what's going on right now. Like I said, quoting can start next week. Orders will start shipping end of month, and then about a month later, Headrest will come. So outside of that, if you have any questions, shoot them my way. I'll find some answers for you as quick as I can. But that's all I got for you.